this Thursday afternoon, I'm taking a few minutes to uh, just kind of share some thoughts about some things that have crossed my mind and that are kind of dear to me. In fact, they're very dear to me, with the number of videos and posts on social media. I'm just one of millions of voices, and I'm not going to be sharing anything with you that is as profound as creation, but I think I have something to say to a very limited audience who is searching in the same direction that I'm in, and I'm so thankful for the opportunity to be able to sit here today and share with you. I have a guy in his 70s living in North Carolina from Central Florida, Leesburg, Florida. Just a common everyday man. Went to high school at Carver Heights High School in Leesburg, Florida. Went to my HBCU Shaw University here in Raleigh and finished this level of my education at Duke University in Durham. And my own drive is to read. So I read all the time. What I spend the most of my life doing is reading, because I'm always searching for that tidbit of information, something that will challenge me and that I can one day maybe challenge you with. And what you will hear from me then, not only in this video, but if you follow up with the videos that will follow, is a desire to challenge you to learn to live now. And this comes from my understanding of Jesus. I also read other philosophers, reading the ancient literature, and how that impacts all of my thinking and my being and the decisions that I make for life, the decisions that I make that are moral and ethical, social and political, and the ones that haven't worked well for me, as well as those that have. I am a pastor. I am a father, husband, grandfather, great-grandfather. I am just an ordinary guy who's a friend to a few people and kind of longs to have a true friendship with male and females, and that's always a process of learning and growing and becoming and allowing other people to become. You know, one of the greatest challenges that we all have, and at least I will speak for me, is to allow other persons to be who they are. Now, you may not be able to, and I may not be able to have the kind of relationship I would like, but I don't want to make other people my enemy. I don't want them to be estranged or separated from me, because we see life differently. Our growth, our maturation is different, and maybe where we're going is a little bit different. One of the things that I remember reading from Jesus, and he says that when you hear these words of mine and you believe the one who sent me, that you have crossed over from death to life. I believe that most of us are searching for life. And that's why I said in this series, I'm going to challenge you and encourage you to learn how to live now, that you're not waiting until you get to heaven and not waiting till death has come, but that you're learning every day that it takes a lot to live, and it's also very simple. So the things that I want to share with you is that, yes, you can actually be dead and not know it, because you haven't learned life. So whatever your sources of life are, Christ Jesus is mine, and I have learned from others. I don't think that following Christ prohibits me from learning from all of the other philosophers. I just trust him to make it all make sense for me, and that's where I am now. I think that more than anything else, learning that I have been unaware of who I am, although I thought I was aware, I really was unaware. Therefore, I couldn't figure out how I related to people or how I failed to relate to other people, and why I battled in my own mind and heart the way that I did and the way that I still do. But I have learned now, because I'm aware of certain things, how to better handle my situation, how to better handle my relationships with other people, and just my own thinking. If you're like me, you don't know where the mind is. You know where the brain is, but you don't know where the mind is. And learning how to formulate a way of thinking that becomes your mind is what's important. That's why Scriptures tells us to those who follow Scripture, to have the mind of Christ. It doesn't come automatic. It won't come from being religious or going to church. It will come from the experience of what you've learned in the Scriptures and how you're actually applying it in your relationship with the person in your mirror and the people that you will encounter. With all of that in mind, I've arrived at today believing that the pathway from death to life is learning how to live Jesus on a daily basis, an ordinary, day by day Jesus teaching, not some theological or some type of exegesis and all the other stuff that so many people need to have, but just have a little talk with Jesus and just learn what is he saying to you as an individual person in your journey and at your place in time. Now, I don't mean to implicate that your other church leaders or your other religious leaders are not of value to you. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying that Jesus promises that once you accept who sent him and his words, you have now already crossed over from death to life. And you can hear that and not understand that's what he's given us as life. I want to live while I can. And I spent most of my life in death. Now, having said all of that, one of the things I want to cover in my video series is becoming aware of who we are and how unawareness impacts our lives and the destructive sometimes outcomes when we are unaware. Although we mean well and have good intentions, we're simply unaware of how we impact people, the things that we say, the way that we talk, the timing, the place, and all of the things that we will share truthfully from our heart and mind. And then there are things we should not share with certain people. You can't share some things until you have a level of trust. And you also got to realize that even with the people that you trust, some of them are going to let you down. Not because they're evil, but because they haven't matured enough to handle the trust they promised you. But when they promised you, they actually thought they were going to be able to do so. And that's a part of their learning and being unaware of who they are. So unawareness is, do you think you know who you are? What are your triggers that make you angry? What are the triggers that make you sad? What are the triggers that discourage you? What are the triggers that make you very glad and delighted? What is it that gets you going? And what are the things that are the elements of joy? Where does your joy come from, and what is it? Where is your peace? Where does it come from? Who does it come from? What set of circumstances? How did you arrive at today being the person that you are? Are you sure of who you are? Are you sure of who you're becoming? Do you have a life plan? Is your life plan consistent with knowing as much about your family as possible? Do you know the nicknames of your cousins and only the nicknames? Or do you know the real names? When you get ready to go to the hospital to visit them, do you know who to ask for? If you've been asking the receptionist only by nickname, that's not what they're going to have. Unfortunately, death is going to come. And when you're handling the funeral programs, do you know how to give the obituary based on names? Do you know who's related to who? How all of this came about? So, what do you know about your family? Because the more you are aware of your family, the more you're aware of who you are. And the less you know about your family, the less you know about yourself. So what then, as a part of your life and a part of your life plan, do you know about your family? Who's your mother? Who's your father? What were their characteristics? What are their characteristics like? What are the high points? What are the things you can live without? And what are those things that you don't like about them that you've inherited? And those of you who may not know your biological mother or father or both, how have you arrived at this point with the viewpoint of parenting or just being an adult? Where did your principles of life come from? Where did the practical application come from? And if you are raised by your grands or anybody, what do you know about them? What do you know about their parents? What do you know about generations? What do they teach you about wealth? What have they taught you about health? What have they taught you about sex? What have they taught you about philosophy and religion? What have they taught you about God? What have they taught to you about politics and race and ethnicity? What are the things that they have taught you? And if they did not, where did you learn it from? Where did you get your particular information from? In order to determine whether or not you are aware of something, you actually always have to go back to the basics, to the very beginning of where you got started. What do you know about finances? Who taught you about finances? Who taught you about how to do bank accounts, money markets, or whatever else there is? I mean, there's such a diverse portfolio of information about money. Do you save? Or do you spend everything that you have? Are you a person that charges and pays by the month? Don't have a charge card? Are you overwhelmingly in debt? And believe that you're going to always be in debt and there's nothing you can do about it. So where did that come from? Who taught you that? And who taught you the pathway that will lead you to prosperity and to lead you to be a good manager and good steward of your money? Those are the kind of issues that are very, very important. What then is your life plan about finances, about family? Who taught you about relationships? Who taught you about best friend relationships? Who taught you whether or not your best friend will betray you? Who taught you how to set boundaries with your best friend? Who taught you then how to understand that your best friend is a human who's subject to frailties like everybody else? But in your relationships, how aware of you are you of who you are, so that in relating to people, you don't become used by people? Do you tend to be used by people? And what I'm asking you, if you look back on your life, are you that person that just trusts people, you believe them, even when they're showing you themselves right in front of your face, you just can't see it? You keep thinking that somehow you're going to save them, that you're going to have this great impact, and one day they're going to love you and they're going to come out of who they are. No, 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 no. You can learn how to love them as they are and as they're becoming, but if you're not protecting yourself, if you say, I trust you, meaning you're wide open to any other human being on the face of this earth other than a newborn baby, well, you're going to be in for a rude awakening. You will become aware that people look out for themselves, even when they intend to look out for others. They don't want necessarily to do some harm. And people will do harm to you, and you'll do harm to yourself unless you understand how relationships work. And you find yourself repeating the same pattern over and over and over because you never learned in childhood, and some things you learned you haven't put into practice. You didn't learn it in your church or religious group, and so you learn religious dogma, but you did not learn how to relate to the variety of people that you're going to face in your life. So again, how aware of you are you of relationships? How aware are you of sex? Who taught you about sex? Who taught you about sexuality? Who taught you about the basic principles, not only of the human body, but also about the human body's differences? Not just male and female, but what happens when a person is born with more than one sex organ? What happens when a person is born and they develop their sexual identity later on as teenagers? Not psychologically and emotionally, but there are people who don't actually, they're rare, but they don't actually develop their physical components until they're older. So all of this is a part of the mystery. Nothing is just cut and dry, simple and plain as it seems. It's never been that way. Now, if you're around people who are simplistic, God only created Adam and Eve, that's all they know. Well, there is so much more to living, to human development, how things have transpired, and how life actually is. And you would do yourself a favor and your family and others if you would learn to live now by exploring all of those subjects. Don't be afraid to explore why you believe what you believe, and hold on to it until you learn something different. But then expand yourself so that this world that's around you will become a world you can live no matter where you go, no matter where you are, no matter what the language, because human beings are human beings. They have different cultures, different food, different values as a general rule, but most people are just the people that they are. And so some people eat spicy food, some love it bland, some people like their food hot, baked, cooked, over open fires and grilled, and some people wouldn't have it any other way, and some people won't have anything to do with that method. Some people like fish, some people like chicken, some people are vegan, and all across the board. Why not be friends with all of them as much as possible? Because you are aware of your limitations, you're aware of the differences, but you also have learned the things that you need to learn, or you're in the process of learning from other people. So learning to live now is critical through your daily walk. And I'm going to be challenging you and asking you these same questions over and over. Marriage. What is it that you believe about marriage? Is the Bible's admonition for marriage one man, one woman for life? Is that practical? Is it really reality? Now, the way I'm asking these questions does not indicate that I'm thinking one way or the other, but whatever emphasis I'm doing is to draw you in. What do you really believe about marriage that you just don't want to express? How can a man and a woman be attracted to each other physically, emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually all the days of their life and no one else? How does that happen? And is that reality? Of course you're going to say that's reality, but is it your reality? That's what I'm asking you. So then, how do you learn about marriage around the world? How do you learn about marriage in your neighborhood? How do you learn about marriage in the scriptures? How do you learn about the practicality of marriage? And how then do you learn about this thing called love? Because it has a significant part of marriage, but is that all there is? Can you be in a successful marriage where love is not the driving force? And when I say that, the mushy kind of love, can it be a love that is practical, supportive, and ever increasing? Or does it have to be a romantic love? Those are the questions that have to be answered. So the whole idea and concept of marriage, where did you get it from? Did you get it from people who divorced? People who just got married, they got it together, never had any issues? Well, how then, if they never had any issues, do you learn how to overcome differences? And how do you actually learn to become one if you ever become one? And how do you learn then the things that you're going to set aside, and you value the other person enough that there are just some things they're not going to change and you just have to let it go? And what role does forgiveness come in? And how do you overcome when people have had affairs, sometimes when they've had multiple affairs? Is divorce the only option? Is the breaking of the family the only option? Those are the questions that you have to ask yourself. And you may be definitive already. So that may not be a question for you, but why not ask the question? Why not answer rather the question after you ask it? So where does your belief about marriage come from? So you need to be aware of where it comes from and what it is that you actually believe. All of the other things that you're going to have to deal with, your politics, your social beliefs, all of the things that impact you every day. So when Jesus says that if you believe him and the one who sent him, you have crossed over from death to life, he's implying that if you don't, you're dead. Other philosophers, other religious leaders have said similar things. And in your search for life, whatever your search is, where are you going to find the words of life? Where are you going to find the answers that you're going to need in order to thrive, in order to live? Who wants to die at an early age? Who wants to get dressed, go to work, go among people, go to the mall, go online while you're dead? Why not live? So the poems that you're going to write, the songs that you're going to sing, the biology that you're going to get into, the trigonometry that you're going to get into, the ships that are going to be built as a result of your scientific efforts, the communities that are going to be built as a result of your philosophical, religious beliefs, all of those things. And what I'm saying is not trying to be comprehensive, but you have something to contribute. Everything that you see today, I'm sitting out in this park, none of this existed except the things that were created until somebody had it as an idea. I'm surrounded by parks on the right, parks on the left, memorials, all of this. Somebody thought of this. Somebody pursued it. Somebody had the resources. And the rest of us are benefiting from it. They were ordinary human beings. Sometimes they have extraordinary vision, and sometimes you have extraordinary vision, except you won't accept it. Your condemnation of the person that's in your mirror is so great that you simply cannot move out of death into life. Somebody killed you when you were young because they told you what you could never do, who you could never be, and they are still living that death vicariously through you today. You have to decide that whatever the mechanism is, that you don't want to die or stay and remain in death psychologically and emotionally, physically, spiritually. And life is worth living. I'm a late comer to believing that. But I did not come out of a stable family. I did not remember my father, although my mother tells me I should actually remember him. I just don't. And that has become a driving force for making sure that I support my family. The church that I'm a part of, I'm driven by the fact that families need community. And people come in damaged and hurt, and they simply need people. And even within that community, the church, it's damaged people, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, the whole thing. So put us together, and we still will not come up to somebody else's standard. But if we could ever learn that we're in this together, then we become people who look at each other as potential friends, part of one body, part of one community. That's very, very, very driven by the teachings of Jesus. And it starts with the core of loving God with all your heart, mind, and soul. Love your neighbor as yourself. And most of us never get there. And we can't even comprehend loving God. We can comprehend saying it, but in the daily dealings with other people and with what we see as the brutality and the evil in the world and what we see as the goodness and all of that, it's just kind of difficult to follow a God who we hold accountable for all of that, who's actually not. And yet we struggle with all of that. So the church community struggle together. You shouldn't be in a church where everybody says, you better believe this and this alone. then you're just going from one death to the other. But when you are challenged to know why you believe what you believe, and you're okay with it, and you don't have to make somebody else the enemy, we're always creating the other. If this person doesn't agree with me, they become the other. But whatever you're doing, that's not life. It's not life, it's existence. So I've said a lot. I did not have a script because I didn't want to look down and follow a script. But I pretty much know what I'm saying. And what I am saying is I want to encourage you to become aware of life. And this is a beginning point of stepping out of death. It's hard because most people who are your friends and family are only going to tell you a little bit because you may not be able to accept it. And some of the things they could tell you would be painful, but not as painful as living your life without the knowledge and awareness of who you actually are and how you impact other people. So you're going to have to dig this out. You're going to have to dig it out. And you're going to find that when you find a friend, when you find somebody who has accepted you, they not meet all of your criteria, they not be the person of your dreams, but you are out of death and you're living when you know what true friendship is, and you stick with it and you hold on to that person with all your being, and you allow them to be hold on to you because you're learning to become trustworthy, reliable. And when you say you love somebody, your definitions may be different, but that's what you intend is to whatever that love is, that's the person you want to be known as with these individuals. Life is short, it's fleeting, and it is to be lived if you learn how to live now. God bless you. I will be getting back with you very soon, and I will get very, very specific about becoming aware so that it won't sound like I'm rambling and covering a lot of subjects, but becoming aware, overcoming awareness, the power to destroy life in you, and then the power to gain life because you become aware. God bless you. Michael L. Dublin Sr. is looking forward to sharing with you. Take care of yourself. Learn to live now.